Hello, substreamers, and welcome back to Substream News. Now, if you're planning a holiday to Australia this year or next year, do not pack your G-string. That's because there is a big debate right now about what's appropriate to wear down under. Let's find out more. So there's been a big campaign launched recently to ban G-strings because they're deemed inappropriate and too revealing. Now, a lot of people agree, but one organisation ran a poll and actually found that most Australians didn't mind the G-strings. They said, well, Australia's a liberated and free country and that restrictive bans on what women should and shouldn't wear have no place in Australia. One commenter rightly pointed out that if your partner at the water park in Australia is looking around at the bodies of other women, the problem is your partner and not the G-strings themselves. Now, there's a big debate raging on right now. There's no ban in place right yet, but the debate rages on. Now, substreamers, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Do you think G-strings are inappropriate and too revealing and should be banned from water parks? And where does that ban extend to? Beaches, swimming pools? Let me know, and let's move on to the next story. Now, you might be thinking that's unusual for me here at SNN to introduce a video with such kind of strange, trivial story. But it's not trivial, it's important. And it leads me on to the next story, which is about censorship of people's bodies and rights to their image. Now, it's Google who is continuing their war on deepfake porn by introducing some updates to their search engine. So basically, they're trying to filter out deepfakes from any search results, and they said they're having quite a lot of success with that. And it's not just Google too. The US Senate recently passed a bill looking to tackle deepfake porn. It is a big issue right now because of the rise of AI image tools. So Google has also, in part of this update, made it easier to make a complaint and get images removed. There are 3 criteria, which I will tell you. You must be clearly identifiable in the image. The image must clearly be fake and show you in a nude, sexual, or compromised position. And the image must be distributed without your consent. Now, if you tick all 3 boxes, Google should remove your image pretty hastily. Now, another part of this update is looking at searches that typically deliver a high number of explicit results, so rude search terms, and they're trying to filter out many of the rude results and give more serious answers to rude searches. Now, I'm not quite sure how that works, and I won't profess to know, and I won't give you any example, but that's what they're trying to do. They're basically trying to clean up Google. Now, finally, and I think this is really important, if you're in the marketing space, it's good to know this for SEO purposes. If your website is penalized and has an image removed, you will be flagged. Receive enough of those flags and your website will be demoted. Receive enough flag sites and you may be removed entirely from search results or pushed right down to the bottom. Google is cracking down, and this means way less explicit imagery and deep fake porn. So stay away from that. It's weird anyway. Just don't mess around with silly stuff because you don't know who you're hurting. Let's move on to the next story. Okay, a bit of a change of pace. We're moving away from censorship now onto another important theme. And it's something I've talked about in other videos. The world is changing and our resources and access to them is changing too. Supply chains are evolving. And that means some of your favorite commodities are going to become luxuries because there are too many people, the harvests are not good, and basically it means there are problems. So I'm going to start first with an absolute staple in my life and something that I would not like to live without. I could, but wouldn't like to. Coffee. I would miss coffee so much. Here's what's happening. Okay, so you may have noticed already that coffee costs more than it used to. In your favorite cafes, the prices might be more, or if you buy grounds from the supermarket or from shops, you may notice that the price is going up too. And you would be right, because coffee prices are at a recent high, a 3-year high of $2.45 per pound. Now, they were higher just a few years ago to 2021 when there was a bad harvest, but yet prices are now on a trajectory to keep going up. It doesn't look like they're going to go down again anytime soon. So coffee drinkers beware. Prices are going up. Now, fortunately, it's not quite as serious as 1977, the Great Coffee Shortage, where there was a terrible harvest, the worst of the last 50 years, and prices were squeezed to the point where coffee was $3.19 per pound. In relative terms, that's a lot. Now, if you think you're going to suffer the effects of a coffee shortage, have a moment to think about the farmers, because many of them live in very difficult conditions and are exposed to the very complicated mechanisms that are commodity pricing for coffee. So when there is a bad harvest, they are the ones who are hit the most, and they are forced to push up their prices to try and find a balance. What you can do to support that is to try and buy fair trade coffee brands that make sure more money goes to the farmers and they get fair pricing. Now, you may have heard of Lavazza. This is a Italian coffee brand whose name I've probably completely just butchered, probably Lavazza. They were forced to raise their prices, and they've been very transparent about why. And I have a really good quote explaining why. Now I'm going to read it. I'm not doing an Italian accent. I was really tempted then, but I'm not going to. So, a combination of poor harvests, climate change, the war in Ukraine, conflict in the Red Sea, the intervention of speculators, and the strong dollar has created a perfect storm for the coffee industry that has seen prices spiral since the pandemic. Wow. Yeah, not a good time for coffee, but it's always a good time for coffee. Let's move on to the next story before I get distracted by my coffee machine. Okay, so obviously it's not just coffee. The next one is citrus fruits, and they are experiencing a pretty rough time themselves. Florida is one of the world's biggest small region producers of oranges, and the data over the last 30 years says that the acreage of orange farms is down about 60%. So this has squeezed local supply, which means there's not enough to squeeze. And it has seen orange juice prices in the US absolutely skyrocket. Now, Americans watching this, you will know orange juice is pricey now. So you might be thinking, well, why don't they just plant more orange trees? Well, the acreages are dropping, and that's because rising populations have forced more property development. And in a popular place like Florida, that is an issue. Now, that would be the easy answer to just blame development, right? Construction. Actually, there's a more serious issue, and it's called greening. Now, if you're not familiar with greening, it is a disease that attacks certain plants. For citrus fruits, it turns the fruits, you guessed it, green. Now, that's fine if you're a lime, but not good if you're a lemon or an orange. Actually, it's not fine for limes either, because it damages the fruit, it then spreads to the entire plant, and the only real cure for it is to remove the tree entirely. So a lot of that acreages that have been removed in Florida is because of greening. And of course, there's a global demand for oranges. Florida is just a case study in one area, but they're minor in global terms. Brazil is the world's #1 producer of oranges, and as they say, when Brazil sneezes, the world catches a cold. Now, Brazil is responsible for 70% of the world's oranges, and they're having a bad year. India, China, and Mexico, they're responsible for most of the world's limes, and they're having a bad year. Turkey and Argentina are among the world's biggest lemon producers, and they are having a bad year. So I'm sorry to break it to you, but the next year or two of citrus juice prices, citrus fruit, not looking good. And here at Substream News, we try to expose what could happen in the future. And shortages of food is something that we must be robust about. We must be prepared. We must be adaptable. And so, unfortunately, this is not a good trend. So we have coffee, we have citrus fruits, and now one more commodity that I'm worried to tell you about because many of you love it. It's one of the world's favorite foods, chocolate. Now, fortunately, this isn't a supply story. Although supply is down, about 10% short of demand, according to various reports, this is about lead. Yes, the metal. So researchers from George Washington University tested 72 cocoa-containing products between 2017 and 2022, and they've just released their results. They found 43% of those cocoa brands contained lead at higher concentration levels than is deemed safe. 35% exceeded the recommended level of cadmium. This is not good, but it's actually okay. So the report actually found that the lead in them was below the acceptable limit in 70 of the 72 brands. Now, it depends which organization you go to, because the FDA allows a lot more than others. So basically, in the US, you can have a lot more acceptable limits of lead in your food, especially your chocolate. Now, the key here, and what they've explained in their findings, is that small servings are fine. Large servings of chocolate could be dangerous to your bodies. The body is a wonderful machine. It has organs that filter out chemicals and metals. So you can eat a small amount of lead and cadmium, never thought I'd be saying that sentence, and be fine. Just try to avoid eating large amounts of American chocolate. Let's move on to the next story. And it's my final story. So if the thought of coffee, orange juice and chocolate being priced out of your life is a glum one, I have quite a nice news story now. This comes from Candice Lim. She's a journalist on internet culture and food and stuff like that. She gives a wonderful life hack that I really like, and I'm going to apply more to my life, and I suggest you might want to do the same. Next time you book a dinner reservation, so you call up or go through the online form, tell the restaurant it's an anniversary. Now, you could tell them it's a birthday, but you might get caught out. Or, you could tell them something else, but you might get caught. But an anniversary, you can make it up and they'll never know. Now, why would you tell them that? Free cake. Everybody loves cake. Who doesn't want free cake? Now, if you are lucky and you've booked anniversary and the restaurant pays attention to detail, you're likely to get a little freebie. Now, you might not. And Candice says the fun in this game is that you don't know throughout the meal whether you're going to get a freebie or not. She says you and your partner can bet on that and just have some fun between you. And that's kind of exciting to not know whether the restaurant will pay attention to your booking. Now, I would love some free cake, but what I would like even more is for you to just quickly scroll down and click subscribe, and you can like this video too if you enjoyed it. That's all for me. I'm Joseph, your presenter. This is Substream News, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.